This is the Blockchain360 podcast. Blockchain360 is a podcast of interviews and discussions about the current state and direction of blockchain. Thank you for joining us today. If this is your first time listening, then thank you for coming. The Blockchain360 podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at our website, blockchain360.co. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter at Blockchain360. All links discussed today are included in the show notes.
Hi, my name is Brian Nielsen, and I am your host for Blockchain360. Today's guest is Todd Gehrke. He is from Luxoft. Is that correct?
Luxoft, yes.
Luxoft. And we're actually here as part of the Inside Exchange Network's Government Blockchain Leadership Forum in the Washington Plaza Hotel here in Washington, D.C. So, Todd, thank you for joining us here on Blockchain360.
Sure thing.
So tell me a little bit about you. How is it that you came to blockchain? What is your background?
So I have about 20 years experience in building highly available, fault-tolerant distributed systems. And I went to work for Luxoft a few years back, and they had a blockchain practice that was already in existence and had been going on for several years. They started doing some projects out of the Excellion office in London early on for the financial institutions. And so they asked me if I'd be interested in heading the blockchain practice for the US, and I said, what's blockchain? But that's
a common
pretty much how it happened.
question is how people get into it.
Yeah.
So you've been in the business of doing distributed and fault-tolerant networks. That's your background.
Yes.
And you came to them, and what have you been doing?
Well, so I work across all the business verticals. We're here at a healthcare conference, and I'm here with two of my colleagues that are in the healthcare vertical. But we do things in automotive, in travel, and you name it, we have a presence in it. Luxoft is a 13,000 person consulting company.
Oh, a startup.
Yeah, it's just not a startup. And so, we're based out of Zug, Switzerland. There's a lot of focus these days on the blockchain. And so we're integrating with basically all these lines of businesses. And my role is to go in to clients that want to do something with blockchain, try to help them understand their problem. Take it to the next level is like, well, is it a blockchain problem? Is it something that we can, integrate distributed ledger technology into what they're doing today, or is it a new idea? And then I help them do the technology selection, which, mostly we work in the private permission blockchain stacks.
Sure.
So we're working in Corda, Hyperledger Fabric, Hyperledger Sawtooth. We do a lot of stuff with Indy in the Sovereign Network. So I sort of help them develop their use case. And then I have this amazing team in Eastern Europe that can knock these things out of the park. And so usually in about 6 to 8 weeks, we'll provide a POC that will deploy a cloud-based blockchain network, implement their smart contracts, and we'll do some sort of simple interface so that they can prove out the functional requirements, and then
Right.
a lot of learning around the non-functional requirements. That's really what the value of the POCs are, is that we walk away with like, well, yes, it can be done. I mean, theoretically, anything can be done, but then does it make sense? Is it performant enough? Is it going to meet the challenges of their business needs?
You mean blockchain isn't the solution for everything?
Well, not exactly. I mean, there's some, we did a healthcare project a while back, and they had some really stringent performance timing requirements, and when you kind of drill down to like, where did these come from? They came from the fact that they have these client server mainframe applications that aren't able to scale like cloud services do today.
Right.
And so if an overall transaction took more than 250 milliseconds, things would start backing up, and the system could never catch up. And so when you start doing things with blockchain and you've got a consensus, you're looking at, it's not performant. It's not like a database. It's not going to be really fast. It takes some time for the chain to come to consensus and for your transaction to complete.
Right.
And so in a sense, it was a failure. I mean, it wouldn't integrate with their existing legacy systems. But we learned that it could integrate. We learned easy ways to make it integrate with ERB systems to be able to query the blockchain and do updates to the blockchain. We just couldn't dovetail into their infrastructure that they're using today.
Right. So was that a success or was that a failure?
It's all a success. I mean,
Well, I mean, it sounds like you built something for them and then they couldn't use it.
Well, no, I think they will be using it, but what they learned is that they need to identify a sector of their business that is can be isolated, and when you are trying to migrate onto integrate blockchain into your ecosystem, when you're running transaction rates in the hundreds of thousands, 30,000 per second or something, blockchain is not going to be easy to do. But if they isolate something like maybe vision or mental health coverage or the sort of things that are not the huge transaction rates, and then target a small population, they can implement things on those systems, and from that they're going to learn not just the power of how things can be, the benefit of how things can be done, but also how the operational ecosystem needs to be built around it, because it's a lot of the complexity of not just deploying these systems, but once you've got them up and running, they can't be turned off, they can't be restarted.
Are you developing then just POCs, or are you starting to see any, really truly enterprise rollouts of blockchain?
So in the healthcare space, we haven't seen anything in the enterprise rollout. We are doing an enterprise rollout soon in the IoT space.
Okay,
and that's
so that everybody, because everyone has a different definition of what IoT is. What is your definition of IoT?
Okay, so what we built is we built a platform based on Hyperledger Fabric that manages firmware and configuration updates to IoT devices. So if you think of a smart city, there's a number of cameras, a number of sensors, and they needed a secure way for those devices to get updated. And the mechanism that we use is you use you authenticate with your cryptographic keys to push configuration or a firmware update onto a blockchain. So now it's stored in an immutable fashion, distributed around so the devices can get at it in volume, and then that triggers an event notification, and you tell the devices to come and pull the update. If they ever have a problem, they can always roll back because the old one's always going to be there.
Right.
And so it's the sort of thing where it was a natural fit. We did a POC for the client. They loved it. We had a lot of ancillary services to build around it so that they could take it to production, and they're in the process of doing that now.
So is this an American city, a European city?
It's a European city. So that's another thing with blockchain.
A little secret here?
I don't know if I can...
Don't worry, no one will hear us. Just tell me.
I don't know if I can talk about the client. So I have to use a little caution there, but I recently attended a blockchain hackathon in the Netherlands, and they really get it there. They're less focused on the cryptocurrency aspect of blockchain and some of the practical uses. The Dutch government completely financed this
Yes,
hackathon.
they did. They've actually done a number of different things from a governmental standpoint.
Yeah.
The Dutch have done an amazing set of implementations, and in terms of trying to create something that is not cryptographic. I mean, not cryptographic, crypto-oriented, as in cryptocurrency-oriented.
Yeah.
So
it's
really amazing.
really exciting. They had this the politicians, the leaderships were making speeches in the beginning and getting everybody motivated. And they had this huge sugar plantation or a sugar factory that was abandoned, and so the place took place all in this big room.
So everyone was eating sugar, and that was what
everybody
kept
was eating
going.
sugar and beer.
Wow, there you go. What a lethal combination.
Yeah.
So this is really cool because I have found it very difficult to talk to people and to find out if there has been, really true enterprise rollouts. I mean, that seems to be the cusp that everyone has a hard time getting over. It's just everybody has their POCs. I mean, everybody has their POCs.
Yeah.
But once you get to that implementation phase, it's very, very difficult. So for this particular city, did they have to come up with new developers to support it, or are you actually acting as the development and support staff for this implementation?
I believe we're acting as the development and support staff. I know that we're doing the build out and the deployment, and we're a large company with a lot of developers, and so I would imagine that we're doing development and support. But eventually that would be turned over.
All right, so I actually have a very specific question about this. How many developers were needed to actually create this?
Oh, you'd be amazed.
No, I'm serious, because part of the problem that I have is that I speak to people and I say, they go, well, how many developers are there? And I go, it's about 7,500 globally.
Yeah.
And I said, to me, the biggest impediment to an enterprise rollout is the lack of talent, the human capital.
What we've got is we've got a dozen top-notch lead guys.
Right.
And we can throw all of those guys on a project and have it done in a few days. But behind them, we've got, literally thousands of full-stack developers. And so we break them up into projects and let, one or two of them run a project.
So they're the lead.
They're the lead.
Sure.
And it depends. There's different aspects to a blockchain project. I mean, one that everybody focuses on is writing the smart contracts. That's often not the biggest piece.
No, it's the smallest piece,
and
generally.
And deploying the network, and so that's a lot of DevOps,
Right.
and we do a lot of continuous integration and testing and those sorts of things. And then the cryptography, we have specialists in cryptography that if we get into the sort of thing where we're trying to break new ground on zero knowledge proofs and that sort of thing, to be able to mask identity and some of the new creative things that the Sovereign Network has been doing. We've got people with expertise in those fields as well. So to answer your question, I would say that a project like the one that I described would be 3 to 5 developers.
Oh, that's nothing.
It's something, because they've got to be 3 to 5 good developers. But once the project is well thought out, it's not that hard to do. But if you start trying to build it when you're still thinking about it, it could take forever. So, the key is pick something attainable, pick something that fits with blockchain, keep it small, learn from deploying it, and then take it to the next step.
How big is your blockchain division?
How big is my blockchain division?
Yeah, what is the percentage of the entire Luxoft's operation?
It's very small. It's
very
small.
small.
Yes, I mean, a 13,000 person company, I would say that we would be lucky if we had 75 to 100 people that have been exposed to actually working on blockchain projects from various aspects, and that could be anything from helping with developing requirements, or like I'm doing today, supporting people with sales opportunities and those sorts of things. But it's growing, and we're continually interviewing new people.
Where are you getting your developers from?
Hackathons.
You're going to hackathons.
We're hosting hackathons.
You're hosting. Very, very clever.
Yes.
I hadn't actually come across that. I've thought about, I go to speak at a lot of different blockchain conferences, and generally when people find out what I do, they go, we'll hire anyone that you educate. And I'm going like, this isn't the only way to do it. But I had not thought of using a hackathon as a recruitment tool.
Yeah,
I think that is very, very clever.
We were invited to supply expertise. So I went there with our engineers, and the role was we had these hoodies on that said we were ninjas. We went around and tried to understand what people were trying to do with their problems.
Did you carry swords and nunchucks?
One guy did.
Really?
Yeah, one
cool.
guy did. But there were 600 developers and 120 ninjas, and so it was a really busy place. We helped people
600 developers.
600 developers, 63 teams, 7 tracks.
Wow.
It was a lot of energy.
That is amazing. And was it a 2-day, 3-day, or what?
The event, I hear them say it was a 4-day. I thought it took place over 3 days, but it was 48 hours. So there was a ready, set, go. Ready, set, go, everybody begin, and then 48 hours later, it's hands off keyboards, what do you have? And then the judging went through and they judged each project.
And just interestingly, what was the project that won that? This is awesome.
There was not just one project, there were 7 projects that won it.
Oh, one for each vertical.
One for each vertical. There was global identity, there was the future of pensions, there was healthcare, there was machine to machine. And so in each of those categories, they had a winner.
So the winners of those verticals, what did they end up with?
15,000 euros. and visibility and sponsorship from companies to take their ideas to the next level.
You said that this is one of the ways, though, you find recruitment. So how does the recruitment part work?
Well, so we're going to be hosting a blockchain hackathon probably in Seattle. I don't know if it's in this process of being solidified.
And no East Coast thing?
Our main focus there won't be recruitment, but you just never know. You go into one of these things and you see this gem, or you talk to somebody and it's just like, hey, let's exchange information. I think we had some hackathons in Eastern Europe, and they might have hired 1 or 2 people. And you're talking maybe 175 people came, spent 3 days working with everybody, and we picked 2.
What is your vision for your company in the next 3 to 5 years for blockchain?
What I'd like to see us do is we're really trying to help enable everybody to get to grow together. It's not like we're going to grab 20% of the business. I think that it would be great if we could share some new ideas and some new ways of doing things. We're working a lot right now with the Hyperledger project to open source some of the DevOps stuff that we've done to simplify deployment, so that people that have an idea want to go out and try something and see if it'll work. We're trying to make that easier. I think that a lot's going to happen with the things that we talked about with education. I think that we really need to be able to have people learn the do's and don'ts. There's no academic program set up. You can't really get a degree where they're talking about the design patterns and do this and don't do that. We're still experimenting, and so perhaps we can help by publishing some of those lessons learned in design patterns.
That would actually be really cool. I actually want to thank you for joining me here on Blockchain360.
All right.
This is our second season, and so it's really cool to have you here and have you join us. And thank you again.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thanks.
All right, take care.
All right, bye.
The Blockchain360 podcast is produced weekly. Have a question? Want us to interview someone specific? Wish to hear about a particular topic? Let us know. You can email podcast@blockchain360.co or tweet us on Twitter @blockchain360 or at our website, blockchain360.co.